This video is about connecting a business process management system and a robotic process automation system. I'm using the community version of Bonita as business process management system and the free version of Microsoft Power Automate as robotic process automation system. We are using a simple order processing example. This process requires order data at the start. In this case, they are provided in an Excel sheet. The question is now, how do we get these data into the workflow of the business process management system? Someone can sit down and type in or copy and paste the contents. But this is tedious. Therefore, we want a little RPA robot to do this job of reading the data from the Excel file, starting a process in the BPMS and handing over the data to this process. Here we have the Excel file with the order data, date, customer, and the order items with the products that have been ordered. We change to the Power Automate editor where we can model the automation for the RPA robot. That has already been done. We can now execute this directly. First, I am asked for the Excel file. I select a file. The robot opens the file in the background and reads the contents. Here, the data is converted into the JSON structure required to instantiate the process. And finally, the bot logs into the BPMS using a REST call and triggers the process, also using a REST call. In this call, the JSON structure containing the order is transferred. In the Bonita portal, we can see that the first task, Review Order, has been created. This is the form for the task. When we compare the contents with the Excel sheet, we find that the order data have been transferred correctly. We can now continue the work in the process, for example by approving the order. How has this scenario been modeled? Here we have the process model in the Bonita Studio. In this process, there's a business variable of the type purchase order. We can inspect this type in the data model. For starting the process, a contract has been modeled. This is exactly the same as what we would use for starting the process with an instantiation form. For an instantiation form, we would also define such a contract. The contract specifies the structure of the data that need to be returned by a form, in this case the instantiation form. In our case, however, the process is started not by a user, but by an RPA robot. Therefore, we don't need an instantiation form. The robot needs to provide the data that are defined in the contract. Everything else in the model is a standard Bonita process, as described in general introductory tutorials. This is now the editor of Power Automate. Here, the automation for reading the Excel file and starting the process has been modeled. I have also linked tutorials for defining automations in Power Automate. Various building blocks are available in the editor, for example, for importing data from Excel files. Or for calling external services according to the REST style, which we need for communicating with the BPMS. Other building blocks are used to work with variables, branching or loops. The bot's task is divided into three parts. First, the Excel file is read in, then the data is converted into the JSON format, and finally, the data is sent to the BPMS. In this part, a dialog for selecting the Excel file is opened. Excel is then started in the background. The data contained is saved in a variable. Here, the data is converted into the required JSON structure. First, the date is formatted. The individual order items are processed in a loop and their data are inserted into the JSON structure. The result is saved in a variable. The contents of the last run are still available so that we can view the JSON structure created. It corresponds exactly to the contract that was created in Bonita and can therefore be used to start the process. The third part begins with a REST call for logging the bot into the BPMS. A second REST call is used to retrieve the unique identifier of the process. This identifier is required for instantiating the process. The possible requests are described in the Bonita REST API documentation. Here is the address for searching for processes. And here, the address for instantiating a process. This is the actual REST call for the instantiation. The JSON structure with the order data is transferred to Bonita. With this information, a new process instance can be created and the robot has finished its work. As we have seen, the process is then being executed as any other Bonita process.